Hi everyone, Big Thinny Sad Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Tiffany Day album, Halo. Here we have the new and sophomore album from Miss Tiffany Day, a Canadian-born pop singer and songwriter who is having a breakout moment behind the release of this new album here. It's being heralded as one of the best pop and electronic albums of the year, and actually managed to even land at number 25 on Billboard's top dance music albums chart. And I could see the excitement behind this record because it's very in vogue with a lot of trending sounds and pop and electronic music this year, especially on the electro side, given recent releases from Underscores, Slater. But just because this buzz for Tiff is new, that doesn't mean she herself is new, as she has been dropping singles since like the late 2010s. And going back even further than that, you could say Tiffany was sort of a music YouTuber, uploading various covers of popular songs with some pretty impressive vocal performances, I'll say. Also, new and original tunes paired with music videos that seemed pretty clearly self-funded, though there was clearly a split in traffic between the content that was entirely original or inspired by the work of others. But this new album cycle from Miss Day is really starting to change that, and I went into this album wondering if that was due to some kind of long-awaited artistic stroke of genius or a right place, right time sort of thing. Because digging into Tiffany's back catalog of content, I can't say I came across anything that was terrible, tacky, or offensively bad, from her early singles to her I'm Alive EP, but there was kind of a lack of identity across all this stuff, with Tiff glomming onto one micro-pop trend after another in search of something that either felt right or worked. Even the sound and marketing between this and her debut album, Lover Tofu Fruit, is so night and day it's a little shocking, instantly shifting from this warm, bright, youthful, almost like top 40 type of vibe to something now that's comparably a lot more DIY, coded, edgy, mysterious, and alternative, some nonchalant Y2K vibes as well, of course. And while yes, it is true, a pop artist reinventing themselves for a new cycle is nothing new, it's not a crime, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it. But the week this project really started to garner some buzz, some pretty embarrassing information came out, a back and forth between Tiffany and a much more obscure singer, one Fawn Burke, who posted an entire Twitter thread's worth of allegations about how Tiffany ripped off her whole aesthetic through photos and music videos and the music itself. And while a lot of these accusations are kind of bogus, because I'm sorry, you did not invent the idea of like laying in the snow and getting a photo taken of you, there is a point being made here. It's just not the point Burke thinks it is. It's not that Tiffany's vibe is derivative of any one single artist, but that the music and its surrounding aesthetics are so plain and unoriginal, they don't really feel specific to her in any way. Because there's also the matter of Burke's former producer, Niles Forrester, who has an awful lot of production and writer credits on this album, and as Burke showed on the internet, Forrester clearly rehashed and reused beats that were originally intended for or recorded on by Burke for this project. Another thing that in concept is fine, there are collaborations that don't work out all the time, and producers routinely reuse and rehash instrumentals that maybe there was an initial idea for at one time, but ends up working better in a different context, reworked a different way, or with a different collaborator. Still, I do think it is a little cynical of Forrester to simply plug another artist into some of these tracks to achieve mostly the same result in terms of the way it sounds, the vibe of it overall. It's almost like a willing participant was more important than a fresh or novel idea. Not to totally discount Tiffany having, at least from what I can hear, more vocal chops to offer, and not to discount her efforts overall either, because she has been grinding at this music thing for years, and only just now seems to be popping off. So again, I don't think the problem is Tiffany is evil and stealing these ideas from any one artist who should have a spot in the music landscape of today instead. It's that the ideas this album presents are so commonplace that you could make a compelling case that these ideas ideas are being taken or borrowed from somewhere else because they're just that dime a dozen. And again, it's not just the marketing or the aesthetics and vibes surrounding the music, it's the music too. Because for the most part, Tiffany and Forrester only seem to be operating with a very boilerplate version of this buzzing, bright 2020s indie girl EDM, whose opening track seems packed with lyrics that are an open admission of her lack of identity. Do you actually believe I'm someone you could look up to? Because I never really saw it in me. I don't believe that you could see it in me either. I think I'm a copy. And see, I'm terrified that I don't really know myself well. I get too influenced, and in over my head, I can't tell. While the vulnerability and tension-building chords on this track are admirable, as is the quick segue into the following Do It For Me, which does have a solid beat to boot, but the songwriting feels like if Hannah Montana were rebranded to go from this girl who would put on a wig and suddenly be living this double life where she's fronting a rock band to a different girl who, I don't know, put on sunglasses and suddenly she's a world-famous DJ or something. And the radio Disney vibes only intensify on Same LA too. A song that is frankly hard to describe given just how unremarkable it is, from its basic melodies to breathy lead vocals and boring relationship dynamics described within the confines of the LA social scene. It kind of reminds me of hearing Owl City for the first time after listening to the Postal Service for years. Deeper into the record too, we see Tiffany writing about the insecurity of comparing herself to other women. And on Copycat, she describes pretty thoroughly feeling the temptation to jack the style of someone who she sees as much cooler than her. I'm sorry, but sometimes it's hard to ignore the fact that this woman is so consumed by her lack of original thought that it becomes her muse. And I can already read the cope people are going to type on social media about me saying that. In a way, I feel like I just went through a similar situation with the recent Slater record, which I described as more of a mood board than an album because its aesthetics and sounds and production, I think, held up a lot stronger than the songwriting itself. But despite the criticisms I have of that album, I could still see the vision and see potential in what Slater was hammering out on that album. Plus, in interviews, it's very clear that Slater is a student of the musical world she is operating in. Meanwhile, Halo, by comparison, has a much shallower sense of itself, to the point where it's not even a mapped out array of vibes or influences. It fits more like an ensemble pulled off the Urban Outfitters clearance rack, with no real vision, persona, or especially edge. It's just borrowing from the most obvious characteristics of this current wave of electropop, and anything truly quirky or alternative about it gets sanded down until all that's left are just some buzzing square wave synths and the occasional jittery edit. And it kind of gets blander as it continues, like on Tell Me What I Did, which is just like a random sad trap song for some reason. And look, the writing isn't exactly wowing me either. While yes, you could say the thoughts and emotions that go into Tiffany's songs are true to her, the only real memorable or consistent characteristics of her pen game is how she writes about crushes or relationships that don't quite work out, or again, insecurities. And while those are not bad topics to pull from when writing songs, she describes these feelings with the depth that you would if you were just experiencing them for the first time in your life. And Tiffany is 26. I would imagine at this point that she would have maybe a bit more to say about these topics or more, I don't know, revelations about them. But very little are offered in the midst of this track list where, no luck, a track where she writes pretty deeply about her health struggles, easily being the most thoughtful in terms of what she was writing about and how she writes about it. I think the most positive note I can give this record at the end of the day is that if you are diehard for this current trend in electropop, this album is very easy to listen to and very easy to digest, really kind of breezes by. Tiff's vocals are palatable, even if some of the time I do think she's kind of punching underneath her weight vocally. And the production isn't bad too. I promise at least a few of these tracks will make you move. But beyond that, I don't really see this as anything else other than just another face in the crowd type of album. One that's fine while it's on, but there's really no shortage right now of EDM-leaning pop records that just offer way better production, hooks, lyrics, and sonics, which is why I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this one. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Tiffany Day, forever.